Hey, Remy.
Hello, Kai. Hello, Albert.
Hello.
Oh man. Well, I've already chatted with Shinshin and Mark this morning, so I know I think they're around, or earlier today, I should say. I know it's nighttime for Shinshin. I'm gonna give them another minute and then we'll jump in.
Yeah. Hi, Shinshin.
Hi, Remy.
Hey, Shinshin.
Hi, hi. Hi, Albert.
All right. Last time we started a little bit early on personal catch up and Mark joined, so I feel like we'll be lucky and maybe the same thing will happen. This week I thought I would just see, and this is optional, so if you want to share, feel free, but curious if there, who's someone that you admire and why? For me, I'm sure like a lot of people come to mind, but for some reason, the person who comes to mind at the moment is Bo Jackson, who is like an athlete in the US from like the late 80s and early 90s. He played football and baseball and just kind of grew up in this poor area, kind of persevered. He was really regarded as like one of the best athletes of his generation. I still think he's one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen. But he was just very humble as well. So there was multiple times where people were like, I'm gonna stop him. Like there was one big football kind of rivalry that he was a part of, and this other player was like, I'm gonna stop him. He's not gonna get any yards because he's a running back. And I always say football, American football. And he didn't say anything and just let his play do the talking and ended up getting on the better side of that. So a little bit long, but that's who comes to mind right now. Remy, what about you?
Nice. Yeah, for me, I could reply with like a philosophical answer, but I'm not feeling like that today. So I will just go back in time where I was in high school, and I had a music band, and the musician that I was admiring the most at the time was John Dolmayan. So I don't know if you know John Dolmayan. It was, and I think I don't know if he still is, but he was the drummer of System of a Down, the new metal band. So yeah, so I'm also a drummer, and I love his style and how he plays. Even yesterday, I listened to their awesome album Toxicity in the car, and that was a great time for me. So yeah, it's always a pleasure to listen to him, and I think he's also a great person. But yeah, I don't know much about him. I admire him a lot. Yeah. Next, Mark. It wasn't enough to make Mark join the call. So, Albert, you're next.
Yeah, so I don't really have a specific one in mind. Maybe Roger Federer. I think as a sportsman, he's one of the one person who has very good sportsmanship quality, character, among like many others. Like yeah, I really respect him for that. Yeah, how about Genshin?
Generally, I really don't admire anyone, but if I have to think about someone, then maybe it will be some computer science. For example, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I personally pronounce it in my mind like Dijkstra, but I don't know if it's actually pronounced that way. It's a Dutch computer scientist for the shortest path algorithm. And some other like Alan Church, and I don't know. Actually, I forgot a lot of them. It's just when I was studying it, they really have a lot of clever things which I probably already forgot now. But that's probably that. And Mark, can you speak now?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I was trying to think about this. I did read a book recently about a Scottish man who cycled around the world, and it was all about his endeavors to beat the record. And he actually cycled from Paris around, well, across Asia and across America and back to Paris in less than 80 days. And yeah, that really impressed me, and the whole story behind it. But the other people that I admire, I used to be really interested in like Arctic exploration. So pioneers of exploring like the northern most parts of the world. And there's some amazing stories, and the South Pole as well. There's some amazing stories about the first people to travel up there and the kind of lengths that they went to, and just the sheer determination to do what they'd set out to do. There's movies and books about it now, but yeah, those kinds of pioneers I thought were really cool.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, everyone. I know, yeah, that was really cool to hear an example that everyone admires. All right, into the announcements. This is where I tried to live this week as far as the information I added. So thank you, everyone, for participating in bringing agenda items. First, efficiency. I'm not sure if everyone was aware of this. I kind of came across this late last week. There's RSpec profiling data that's available, thanks to Jan and Stan, at the repo that I linked to here. And the link in the first part is also the issue or epic that they use to pull that all together. So pretty interesting data that we could potentially use to look at the test suite a little bit differently than what we do. The next item is just an FYI. If you haven't seen the reviewer workload dashboard that IP set up, please give it a review. I think this is an interesting perspective on information that we could use to potentially feed into reviewer roulette, or even make it a little bit more weighted distribution. So next, there's a fireside chat, I think in about 2.5 hours, with Sid, the Minorities in Tech ERG leads, and the Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging manager. This can help if you aren't able to find a diversity, inclusion, and belonging activity that fits for our department OKR. I think this is going to be recorded, so I know that's late for half of you, really late. So I think this is going to be recorded, and I'll share it once it is. It does say, I think, public recording on the meeting invite. All right, on to Backstage deprecation. Yesterday, I communicated out a plan to deprecate Backstage next Wednesday, the July 8th, to engineering managers and product. Some of the feedback that I saw come up in like group and stage channels was developers who were like, why wasn't this one person, I should be specific, said, I didn't see this shared in development. So my plan is to share that later today and just accelerate feedback from the broader group. Originally, I was going to do that on Monday, but I think why not just do it earlier? So if you do have any final adjustments to the plan or documentation MR, please make those updates. I'm trying to keep the plan in sync across both, because some people seem to be looking at the MR and some people seem to be looking at the issue. I'll do my best to keep them in sync throughout the day as changes happen. All right, last item from me, and then I'll let Remy vocalize because my vocal cords are getting a little tired here. 13.1 retrospective will be next Tuesday, the 7th. Please take some time to contribute any final items to the department retrospective so that they can be summarized and shared more broadly. And then following up from last time, if there are items that you feel need to be addressed that we don't have an issue for, feel free to create one, or let me know and I'll create one if you're busy. Remy, why don't you vocalize the last one?
Yeah, so thanks to Albert, who rebuilt the review apps cluster. We were able to re-enable the review apps with signups disabled, because that was the main problems, the main reason for disabling the review apps a few weeks ago. So I think we have one smoke test that is failing, and it's I think Dan is looking into it, but the review QS smoke job is still allowed to fail anyway, so it shouldn't like it should be as before, basically.
Great work on that for everybody who's helped. Thank you. Remy, onto the agenda. Why don't you take the first item?
Yeah, so next item is about the Backstage deprecation. So that there was a point brought up by ZJ this morning about tooling in satellite projects. So Gitali, GitLab Shell, GitLab Workhorse, GitLab Runner also as well, I think. So basically, smaller projects that also use Danger, and that relies on the Backstage label. Probably, I didn't look, but probably like with the same strategies as we have in the GitLab project. So just a note. So I created an issue, and we could probably update these projects as well. So I don't know if anyone has any comments.
Yeah, thanks for creating the issue. Anyone has time to give it a look to understand the scope a little bit better, I would appreciate it. Otherwise, I'll try my best to get to that late in the day. I just, so I'm off the next 3 days. I'm not sure I'll be able to get to it, but I'd like to understand if, I think we'll need to fix this before we do the label conversion from what I saw. Maybe not, but I'd like to understand if it's blocking.
Yeah, we can probably do as like we did for the GitLab project, like support the new labels already.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll ask the question in the issue just to make sure that we have clear understanding of whether it's blocking or not, because I just want to know if we should push the date because of it. Cool. Albert, you want to talk the RSpec fail-fast template?
Yeah, I'm curious about what the team thinks about how we can best dogfood this feature. So it's one of the KR for this quarter. So I would like to get some ideas for it. So I think the first thing that came to mind was, so it doesn't seem very easy to dogfood this in the GitLab project itself, because one, the pipeline is very complicated, and the template is very specific. It has a lot of assumptions about how the code should be structured. It's more closely linked to the standard Rails structure. So I was wondering. So I also came across another project, the customer's GitLab com. So it looks like this might be a better project for dogfooding. The pipeline is simpler. It's standard Rails that. What do the others think about this?
Yeah, I think we can try.
Sorry, go ahead, Jinshin.
Let's it. I think we can try.
Yeah, I might reach out to Vinci on this. I think customers falls under growth, and just see if she can help advocate for that, so it removes that responsibility from us. What I was thinking in the GitLab project is if we can at least use the gem. And Albert, you and I talked about this a little in our one-on-one last night. You pointed out some difficulties with that, like just setting the template aside and trying to use the gem as it stands within a new job in the pipeline. So I like the idea of looking at the customer's repo better than what we had.
Yeah.
For using the gen, I somehow feel like it might work better if we work in GitLab org and then extract the part into another gen, because it feels like it's using different approach and might not work very well for GitLab project.
And
I don't quite understand what you mean by we work in GitLab org first. Do you mean we use the gem that is used in the template in the GitLab org and then customize it and then port the changes back into the gem? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we don't exactly use the gem, but use our current test file finders and make it work better. And then maybe extract that code into another gen or the same gen, whichever works better. And if we work on the gen and import it into GitLab, I feel that's a bit slow on feedback.
Yeah, I'd like to keep it to one gem. So whatever we do, we should keep it to one gem. I'm okay with our team improving the gem or opening an MR to make it so that we can configure the test mapping a little bit more. When I look at the functionality that's provided with the gem through the template, that's the piece that I see that's missing the most, is making it configurable, making the gem configurable to say these parts of the code from a glob match to these tests. And if there was a capability to feed that in, I think the feature would be a lot more valuable. And part of the discussion that I had with Albert was, by using the gem, we can point to a better case of this is the thing that's missing for us to use it in the GitLab project. That's where I like your idea, Albert, of using the customer's app and say, this is simpler, we can just add it in, and at least start to get some feedback on how well does the job function in an app that it seems to be designed for. I like that path. Remy, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I agree that ideally we should be able to use the gem and be able to customize so that we could add custom mapping as much as possible. Yeah, definitely.
I think we can take. Yeah. Sorry, we can take both approaches concurrently. I see the dog fooding into the pipeline as one way of getting feedback. It's more of giving feedback on the current state of the feature or the template of the gem. And then we can also continue working on the test file finder, and then that sort of put what can be done in the future for the gem, and sets like it can be used as an example of how the gem can move forward.
I think my main concern is that things like this must be configurable because different projects would certainly work it in a different way. And so far, the CI template isn't very configurable. Even if it works, we might need to throw most of things away. Then I'm not really sure the point to use it. So either we make CI template more configurable, or we just use the gem directly.
Do you see a benefit of the CI template to other customers of GitLab? I think that might be the intent of the template on its own, where it's like an opinionated implementation of the gem that can be extended. Okay.
Like I don't know if Heroku is a good example, but I believe there are a lot of very opinion framework, and yeah, CI template can be a very opinion framework. So smaller application can just use it without configuring anything.
Okay.
But if that's the case, I don't think GitLab would be a customer for that unless we have other smaller projects.
Yes.
I think it feels like just like GitLab, we cannot use the DevOps to operate GitLab right now yet. Something like that. It's not that it's not working that well for this scale.
I agree. Yeah, we are operating in a different scale than a number of the users of GitLab, the product. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Albert. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Like I mentioned this earlier in our one-to-one also. Like I feel that the template may not be the right form for this feature. I mean, it does serve a purpose for customers of certain scale, but then beyond that scale, I feel that we might need to make it more. We might need to abstract it a little bit. So I feel that if we could build something that does what the gem does, but it's part of the feature, and then the project can then use that output in however way the project wants to use it, then I think that could be something that's very valuable. So what I mean is like, so we have features about code coverage, things like that. So if the gem can be sort of be made part of the product, and then it uses this coverage, and then look at the historical test coverage, and then be smart enough to determine like what test needs to be run, for example, and then it just identifies the list of test files, for example, and then this is made available to the project, and the project can use that however they wish. Then I think that would create more value at the larger scale.
Yeah, I think that's great feedback. I'm going to link to the feedback issue here. I think adding that or those thoughts, a lot of these thoughts of these are the things that are holding us back from GitLab. This is the stuff that we need to expand to be able to leverage it more. And then the confusion around, not the confusion, but like our thoughts on the CI template, I should say, would be really good to share. And I linked to that down below. So this KR, I'll say was for the ops team, and I kind of offered to help because we're more familiar with pipelines than some of than what the ops team is, I should say. And that was really what I saw our involvement in the KR is helping to implement and helping to measure to determine feedback. Albert, you raised this point last night. I think this is still valid. It's not really clear what the KR is trying to accomplish. That's what I want to work towards getting a better understanding on today. So I'm going to talk with Joanna and mention maybe customers would be a better project to test this on. mentioned that to Vinci as well, because it's a regular Rails app, which the template would lend itself to better than the GitLab project at the current time. Does that, I guess, scope of our involvement and kind of path forward help everyone see how we should be supporting the KR? Okay. This is a really good discussion. Please add your thoughts, like, you know, your specific items to the feedback issue would be the last thing I advocate on.
Yep.
Cool. Anything else on this item?
Yeah, I will summarize the feedback and then put it, the discussion and put it into the issue.
Okay,
The
thank you.
feedback issue.
Yeah, and even linking to our agenda would probably be helpful there too. Okay, all right. Any other items anyone would like to discuss?
No.
All right. I will give everyone back some time. It's good seeing everybody. I will catch you next week. So see you later.
Cool. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.